Good afternoon, Columbus, Georgia, and welcome to the LaJoy Podcast program. And we got some very interesting guests here today, or one guest I know is very interesting. He's one of my competitors on here. And welcome to Chris Breault on our program today. Hi. Good afternoon, Chris, and welcome to the program.
Hey, Mark. How are you doing?
Great, man. This is awesome to have you on board. And I think a lot of people got some interesting questions and stuff. We've seen a lot of postings on there on our pre-announcement that we were doing. So
cool.
So I got a really important question. Chris, why did you get in the program? Why did you get in the mayor's race?
I got in the mayor's race because I live in Columbus. I've got a daughter here who's 12 years old. She'll be 18 in probably 5 years and 2 months. Not probably, but she will be.
Yeah.
And, I live in Columbus. I was born and raised in Columbus. And it's really seems to have taken a turn for the worst in the last few years. And so I did not have much faith. I decided a good while ago to do this, but I didn't have much faith in the current set of politicians that we have running this place. And I have the time, and I believe I have the ability. And so I decided to throw my hat in. I did. A lot of folks are like, oh, you waited to the last minute. But, I mean, the week to declare was March 2nd through the 6th. Right. So, I mean, I'm right on time. I wasn't late, so to speak. Yeah. But also, I'm not taking any campaign contributions. I don't have anybody funding my campaign. Everything that I do is coming from me personally. So, a lot of these folks, they spent, I guess Mr. Hughley and Miss Kogel, they have spent, I guess most of the last year essentially begging people for money to fund their campaigns.
Right.
And so I'm not doing any of that. So I don't really, it's kind of like, why would you take a year to fight a battle when you can do it in 6 weeks? So in a way,
that's good. That's a good analogy.
Well, yeah, and it's the way I try as a lawyer. I try my cases that way too. So some lawyers may take 3 weeks to try a case. I'll try the same case in 3 days, and I'll get 3 times or 30 times the result that they do. So, but yeah, that's pretty much it.
Yeah, I know lawyers. You're able to do it on short notice. I've been in court against you all a few times.
There you go.
Normally, it's the guy just comes up. He doesn't have a defense attorney or some reason. He comes up and he's like, "Oh, hey, Chris Breault, you're there. Hey, you can defend that guy over there." That's kind of the way. I know it's not that rudimentary, but it can be sometimes. So
yeah, and on my cases, I'm pretty prepared. Even though I can compress it down to 3 days, that doesn't mean I didn't spend 30 months preparing.
Yeah.
So yeah,
sometimes you do that, and I know Mark Shelnut was my attorney in several different actions that I had, but. His partner said in court one time, he said, "Look, I can get you out of trouble, but each time that you get in trouble, you go lower and lower below that medium, and it gets harder and harder to get you out of trouble, bond and something." So
yeah, and shout out to Shelnut. He's a great lawyer and a good guy. I'm a fan of Mark Shelnut and his partner William Kendrick.
Yeah, William.
So I went to high school with Kendrick, and I've known those guys for a long time.
Oh, I did too, because I used to work the football games and everything
at Cadet
Stadium. Yeah, so I knew all about those guys. Kendrick's a good guy. He's sometimes we're on the opposite side of the table, obviously.
Yeah.
But
he's an effective lawyer. He's not as good as me, but
there's a plug-in, folks. There's a plug-in for Chris Breault.
Yeah.
That's funny.
Right.
That's funny. So anyway, we said you came in at the last minute, but it makes perfect sense. Again, I'm under the same concept. I didn't take but $100 from somebody, and the reason that is because I was a former neighbor of mine down there. He felt obligated to take the money. The thing that my policy is not so much, I made the announcement back in January that it was going to run. And, of course, it's been a slower roll-up, and I've ran for sheriff before. Of course, the news will tell you that I've ran 5 times unsuccessfully and all that stuff. But the bottom line is the military taught me a very valuable skill, and that was never to give up. Always continue to move forward, never give up. Can you imagine an Army guy and a platoon of infantry soldiers giving up in the middle of a battle?
Yeah.
No, it just doesn't happen, and that's how I've been trained. And, as long as I'm, God willing and I'm healthy, I'm going to continue to run for public office.
Yeah, and if your heart is in it and you feel as though this is something that God has led you to do and you believe in it, then why would you give up, or why would you not do it again? So, and also, even if you quote lost, if you have moved the debate forward and you have highlighted things and kind of shown issues and brought to the public's attention things that wouldn't have been thought of as important, then you've kind of done your job as a citizen. So, yeah, I'm with you 100%.
Yeah.
That's why people are like, what if you lose? I was like, well, what if I lose?
Yeah.
So I kind of leave it on the field, so to speak.
Right.
And that's it. So.
Yeah. No, I agree with you 100%. I think, the reason I look at not accepting donations is because I don't want to have to morally obligate myself to somebody.
Yeah.
You know what? I don't want to have to say, I don't want that person, a big famous family or something, to pick up that phone and say, hey, Mark, remember when I gave you that donation of $3,300?
Right.
I don't have that.
Well, and I personally, I didn't, I didn't have family who gave me money for college or law school or any of that stuff. So I didn't, and I like it that way.
Right.
At the time it was a little bit harder, but I like that I don't owe anyone anything, so to speak. But so it's kind of, the old saying is whoever pays the piper picks the tune.
Yeah.
Or they say whoever
That's a good point.
whoever holds the purse strings has the power.
Yeah.
And so if you look at some of our opponents' list of contributors, there are a lot of corporate donors, a lot of your kind of traditional power type people in this city, and that comes at a cost.
It does.
So the next Clingstone Stadium or whatever it is, they're going to expect that to get passed.
Yeah.
And they basically have made themselves dependent on these outside contributions to fund their political careers, and so that has a price.
Well, I think that that's important too, not to have money behind you, because it kind of aligns you with what the intent of having a public officer was. It's a citizen just like you or me that says, hey, I would really like the opportunity to come in and serve you. I would really like the opportunity to be your voice. And because they're just like you, have the same concerns that you do, they're not necessarily... I kind of see people who are in public office do become politicians.
Of
and
course.
They forget that at one time they were just a regular citizen. So it's like I really value a lot of those people who are running and they don't have all of that money behind them. Right.
And so, I'm with you 100%. You want for me, I want my duty to be to the people. I don't want it to be to the W.C. Bradley Company. I don't want it to be to Synovus Financial Corporation or whatever it's called now, or whoever it is that's bankrolling my whole campaign.
Yeah.
Well,
because,
I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, you're good. No, you're good. All those things come at a price.
Yes, I agree. Well, I guess then my question, I know that you just had a very big lawsuit settlement, and, I guess an attorney retainer, I've heard or researched that they get about 30%, 40% of that settlement. Not to say that you have it or anything, but I just wonder, why not continue practicing, I guess, law where it has a better profit margin, and instead, what's the difference between doing that in the mayoral's office? What makes you want to do that?
I think you're right, and I've had a few people who have who don't really know me that have accused me of doing this quote as a grifter, but I think you're right. The quote, the profit for doing something like this is essentially non-existent. You don't go into public office typically. Maybe you do, but I'm not going into public office for the money, and I have had some success as a lawyer. And, some people would consider it to be great success, but, that is why I'm doing it, is because I have a little bit of breathing room finally. And so I'm not under the gun like I've been most of my adult life financially. So I have the time and I have the resources to do something like this. And, life is, it's about more than just money. And so you can sit in front of a desk in front of your computer for the rest of your life, and you can make millions of dollars. But at the end of the day, I mean, what is it that you have beside just some numbers in a bank account? Because, apart from having a car that runs well, a home that it's dry, it has a good roof, you have a comfortable bed to sleep in, and some food. I mean, besides those things, you really don't gain a whole lot. But by having a lot more money, you might be able to, you can take some vacations, that kind of thing. But really, all of our lifestyles nowadays, I mean, we live like kings. If you were to go back 100 years ago, 200 years ago, I mean, folks didn't have running water. They didn't have, they didn't have
Electricity.
They didn't have electricity. They didn't have dishwashers. They didn't have washers and dryers. And so,
I hate those things.
yeah, really, the life of someone who is, quote, low income is from a quality of life perspective is as good as a king if you go back 200 years.
Yeah.
So life's short, and once you're comfortable and you can kind of, if anything, having money just helps relieve some stress, but it doesn't fundamentally change, in my experience, it doesn't really change the quality of your life besides just kind of giving you a little bit of cushion, and that's it. So, and, I've done some things as a private citizen, helping with schools and stuff like that, but you, as a private citizen, there's a limit to how much help that you can provide the community.
Yep.
So, like I helped some of these youth football teams get football equipment, but there's like 200 other football teams, or 100 probably locally,
Right.
that need help. So really, if you want to try to change the world, so to speak, you have to do it at the systemic level, and you're not going to do that as a private citizen unless you're like Bill Gates or
Right.
somebody like that, unless you're a billionaire. Maybe that's a bad example.
Well, I guess the reason why I asked that question is because, I guess me as a private citizen, I really do care about the change that's gonna occur in our city, and so I just wonder, and I'm not saying you have any ill intent. I don't want you to take it that way, but I just wonder, it almost kind of feels to me, and so please take this graciously.
Yeah, I'm an open book. You can say anything you want. I promise
I don't
you,
wanna offend
I can
you.
handle anything that
Okay,
you have,
good.
honestly. So say whatever. I want you to be as blunt as possible. And,
Yeah.
and I know that Mark talks a lot about transparency.
I do.
And I'm the same way. I mean,
Good.
if you... It rubs some folks the wrong way, but I can handle it. So you tell me everything you have. So.
Okay, so the reason why I asked that question is because, the pattern here in Columbus with these larger families, it just seems like they have the power to throw money at campaigns. They have the power to throw money to sway things, and it doesn't always look the same. And so the reason why I asked that is hey, if you, as someone who does have a lot of money, what would you say to someone that feels that way, that, this is just, you throw money at the campaign, and this is blunt. This is may not be my personal opinion, but how would you feel for someone that says, hey, you're throwing money at the campaign, and then you just, you're just in it because you can, you have the money, you have the power, and you're no different than any of the W.C. Bradleys or anything.
Right. Well, I'm certainly no W.C. Bradley, anything like that. But I think when you look at it, I don't do things half-heartedly. And if you see me spending money on my campaign, it's because I'm trying to win the campaign. I mean,
Yeah,
that's
of
kind of the way it is.
Yeah.
So, and some of these things, they have a price. And, with these corporations that you see making financial contributions and basically bankrolling the politicians' campaigns, I mean, they do have a financial interest in it, in the sense that they want contracts, they want their projects approved, they want the zoning that they're going after.
Mm-hmm.
They need the government to okay the things that they're doing. And so I'm not like I'm not in that kind of business. I don't need a big $50 million construction project. I'm not trying to make $10 million off building the Clingstone Stadium, anything like that.
Well, it's not like you can. You're not in that line of business.
Yeah. Right. Although I do have a small construction business that I operate, and I've done construction for most of my life. When I had dropped out of high school, I did concrete construction for a number of years, and if you go to Auburn University, you'll see their art museum, and it's got a concrete basement around there. And when I was 19 years old, or about 20 years old, I spent 9 months building that concrete basement. They got these 20-foot tall concrete walls. So I do, Kyle, he's a friend of mine, and he's over here helping with some videography stuff. But he'll tell you, I got a lot of construction projects with nothing like these big companies that you're talking about.
Yeah.
Heck no.
Yeah.
Well, you know what happens a lot, and what we're fighting as candidates, and you need to understand it, and you do because you grew up here. I came here in 1988 as a soldier, and just kind of remained here. I took a little trip somewhere else, came back, and I've been here since 1988. But the bottom line is there's 100 years, and I'm calling it like it is, corruption in this town. Mm-hmm. There's 100 years of families that have contributed to the community and candidates over this time. And I always said that this is an insurance policy. It's like I mentioned before, they can pick up that phone and again, get something passed or something. And that's not how I know. I'm hearing from you, and that's not how I am. I don't do business like that. Everything I do is in black and white. I don't see any other colors. So that's what I'm saying. We're fighting a corrupt system of 100 years at least. So,
well, yeah, and I will say though, just to be, those quote families. They have built businesses here that have employed people, thousands of people, and they have done a lot of construction projects. And just in their defense, they have done a lot of good things. But I do think that, and I believe this, and a lot of people do, that the overall growth in the city has been constrained by the control that they have on.
Exactly.
That's a good point.
Right. So, I think the issue is they've done some great things, but but it's like how much do we not have if we had a little less of their influence? So
there was a saying going around because Columbus was a cul-de-sac basically. The end of the road was here. You couldn't go anywhere beyond that very far. Now we can go to Florida in several different directions or wherever you want to go to Albany and things like that. But the Turner family, basically Bill Turner, if you wanted to start a business, you had to go and genuflect in front of him in his office and get his blessing and say, I want to do a Kentucky Fried Chicken here. You had to get the blessings of the families in the city in order to start those businesses because it was so locked up here for so many years.
And again, it can be good. I mean, they've done a lot of good things, but the control, it's kind of like you don't know the lost opportunities. You don't know like what could have, because I know Columbus doesn't have the growth that these other places that aren't as big, Right. So I'm with you.
Well, the growth is coming. It's coming. I mean, if you see slowly the economics, we talk about economics and what I wanted to see. And my goal as mayor for Columbus, I want to see medium to large corporations. And I talk about this, folks, in our debates. But the reason that I'm pushing the medium to large businesses is for one simple fact. The small business owners in Columbus have saddled the lion's share of taxes they have done in this town. Yeah. And so, we've got one competitor up there. She talks about how important small business is and how she's going to support it. And that's a great thing. I'm not against that. But again, what I am against is the small business owner paying the lion's share of the taxes in Columbus. And so what I want to do is get those larger corporations in here. I'd love to have, a Bass and Buck, and I'd love to have some stuff like that, and coming in to draw people in other than just Fort Benning. Fort Benning is what draws, mom and dad and to come to see Johnny and Judy here. So,
right.
But I want to see the expansion of that. I would love to see some other thing. How about a Chucky's? How could you imagine? Or a Bucky's, excuse me.
A Bucky's,
Yeah,
yeah, that'd be
Buc-ee's
cool.
would
A
be
Bucky's on the
amazing.
outskirts of town, man. I mean, that's a small city.
Yes, Buc-ee's
You know,
would be
it's,
Yeah, I love
but it's
Buc-ee's.
an event. I love it.
My sister works at Bucky's in Auburn.
Okay.
So yeah.
Yeah. Oh,
she-
we just came back.
Oh,
from
you
there.
did?
Yeah.
Okay, nice.
But Bass Pro Shops usually locate where the Bucky's are at, and I mean, it's awesome.
That
you
that
know?
would be awesome.
Yeah, because Birmingham, I was up there recently, and they have a Bucky's out there on the interstate, and right up the road, you know, they have all kinds of outdoor places, and they're full. I mean, people are coming in, they're spending money. You know, it's crazy.
So, real quick, a question that I have when you're talking about the medium to large businesses being
Yeah.
brought here. So, if I understand correctly, like you would be willing to open a forum and invite the citizens to say what they would like to bring
Oh,
here, right?
definitely. I mean, we have to
Chris?
run a forum, and I think it's important, even if Chris is not elected as a mayor, it would be good to have him on board with his suggestions and ideas because, again, I can't do this by myself.
Yeah.
Definitely.
You know, we got to get the community involved. You
Yeah.
know? And
Yep.
so that's where the success comes. I mean, look at hockey games. Did you ever think hockey would really kick off like it did in the South? I didn't.
Right.
I had no idea. And I'm a hockey guy. I mean, I grew up in the northern climates, you know. I learned how to skate when I was 3 years old before I learned how to walk.
Well, I will say
You know.
that.
Yeah,
Oh, go ahead.
Well,
Go ahead.
Oh, you're good.
I'd actually like to hear if he's going to invite that as well.
Well, I
Yeah.
went on my first date when I was 16 to a Cottonmouths game.
Okay.
So I have a fondness for the Cottonmouths.
Okay.
And
You see where I got one
I used
right
to play
here.
street hockey. Oh yeah.
I played street hockey as a kid too. So.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I would say that I feel like the candidates that we have are amazing. Like I like all the ideas. I've enjoyed the forums. I've liked hearing the opinions. I will say that, you know, some candidates are stronger because what I'm personally looking for is I want specifics. If you're telling me you want to bring jobs here, what kind of jobs are you going to bring? How are you going to do it? If you're telling me that we want safety and security, well, specifically, how are you going to do it? Now, I know Mark because I spend more time with him, so I know all the details and the nuances with, you know, his policy. But that's why I guess my mantra right now when it comes to scaling candidates, and I'm pretty set on you, Mark, always, but, you know, it's you know, focus on policy over popularity, policy over, you know, skin color or, you know, what people, your preference. Like, who has the strongest policy?
Yeah.
And, you know, I don't care if you're a nice person. I don't care if you're nice because nice has betrayed me. You know, it has betrayed me very strongly. So, like, I care about the implementation. You know, that's what I'm studying, policy, public policy. So I care about those things. And so I guess for you, Chris, you can answer Julie's question about how the actual specifics on how you want to bring, I guess, jobs here. And then I also would like to know some specifics about your first 100 days should
Yeah.
you be elected as mayor.
Yeah.
Okay. So, I mean, if I was elected, I would probably start before I became mayor. But, you know, I've talked a lot about the trash, and people are like, man, this guy's obsessed with trash.
I wrote
And,
about that.
It's a good point, though.
Yeah.
Well,
it's a good point.
it is.
I just think it is ridiculous that and they've actually, if you've noticed, they've been cleaning up. I don't know if you've noticed
I
that the
notice that
city,
often.
They
this
always
city,
do
they're
it right
starting
before election.
right.
Not on I-85, they haven't.
No.
There's bed springs and tires
Oh,
and
wow.
car parts and anyway.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of, you know, there's almost been this kind of like public policy movement against using, like when I was 19, I got a DUI in Athens, Georgia. And a friend of mine, we went through a roadblock in downtown Athens. I had been drinking, and it's my first time there. And I went through the roadblock, and the officer was like, hey, turn your lights on. And then he let me go. And I told my friend, I was like, hey, man, we gotta go to your house. And his house was like 4 or 5 blocks away. It was pretty close. But he was like, okay, we'll take this left. And we took a left. He's like, all right, take the next left. And we took the left. And we took 4 lefts and we ended up going right back through the roadblock. And I didn't have my seatbelt on.
And the guy recognized
He
you
got
properly.
you.
and he goes,
Yeah.
Didn't you just come through here 5 minutes ago?
Right, and I had to pick up trash as part of my
I love
community
it.
service.
That's right.
Community service, yeah.
So I don't know. I mean, I guess they don't do that anymore.
They don't.
They should.
They don't. And
And-
that's what's wrong with that. Is,
And they, I know. I mean, it's kind of some of these things, and they don't use the inmates at the prison or jail like
Yeah.
to help clean up things. And
you know, there's an advocate here, and I'm not gonna mention her name, but she knows who she is. The bottom line is she used to go before city council and constantly complain about the prisoners and racism and all that kind of stuff. But you know what? When they took away the work crews and the things that they did, that pissed off the inmates because they're in there 24/7
Yeah.
in jail, right, or in the prison. And at least they get out. They get out into the environment, get out there and get to see people. And yeah, okay, they got a quarter an hour, but that goes on their canteen. And so while it's on their canteen, they can buy things that they need to buy. So she went before city council way too many times and bitched way too much about it. And of course, they just started cutting it back. And now we got the automatic reload, what do you call it, the dump trucks and all that,
Yeah.
or the garbage trucks that do that. So
I hear so many complaints about those garbage trucks because things spill, the drivers, no one gets out.
Nobody gets out.
And,
Yeah, it's all electronic.
you know, I think it just became politically incorrect to allow the prisoners or inmates. I don't know, because someone was telling me, no, it's the prisoners that would do it at the Muskogee County Prison. And then other folks have been like, no, they were the jail inmates also. But so either way, my view is that it is, they have said that, and I've had folks that were black folks, I had folks that were white folks, Hispanic folks, and many of them have said, hey, we should bring the prisoners back to help clean up the trash. And
It was a cleaner Columbus when they were out
Well,
there.
heck yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
well, I mean, my view is that if the implication is that it is like a form of, quote, slavery to allow them to pick up the trash, it seems like taking away their right to choose to do that would be more in line with slavery,
Yeah.
because slavery by definition is taking away somebody's free will.
yeah, and they don't have to go and do
That's
it.
good.
No, they don't have to
It
do
was
it.
volunteer.
Well, so as long as it's voluntary and it's something that they want to do.
Right.
I mean, if I was locked up and you gave me the choice to
Yeah.
a couple times a week get on the back,
I'd go out in a
yeah,
heartbeat.
when I was a little kid, a few times, I think I was like in 6th grade, we got our rollerblades on. We used to do street hockey like you
Yeah.
were talking about.
Yeah.
And we would hide behind these bushes in the front of my neighborhood. And when the garbage truck or other people would come, we would try to, go and kind of hook onto the back of it and see if we could let it pull us. And so I've always wanted to ride on a garbage truck. I mean, it always,
Oh my
it
goodness.
always seemed,
I want to run.
it kind of seemed fun to me.
I rode on the back of a fire truck one time.
Yeah. So I think if the guys who are the actual inmates, I mean, if it's something that they want to do, that would be more in line, it seems, in terms of honoring their freedom and their free will than not giving them that choice. I mean, I know I'd like to go get some sunlight and some exercise and I used to smoke cigarettes back in high school, and we used to take cigarettes and whatnot and put them on the top of the garbage, our garbage cans.
Yeah.
And the inmates would come by and they'd see the
Yeah.
cigarettes and they'd wave and
Yeah.
and so I don't know. I mean, those guys always seem like they're having fun.
Well, yeah, and it like I said, it's a lot about freedom, a lot of getting out of there, and they volunteer for the assignment. It's not something that they're mandatory that they're there, but while they are working and they're doing things, they are earning money. Could we increase it another quarter? Maybe so, but the city, like I said, the city was a lot cleaner when we had that. Go up and down the interstate, go down on the roads. I mean, it is so filthy. We seen a whole bag of garbage on the side of the road yesterday. One tire, some front bumper on a
Mattresses.
car. Mattresses.
Big one.
Beds, you name it. And I don't know, when I see car parts, I know in a county that I work in, that I'm a law enforcement agent of, that when the wreckers go out there during an accident, their requirement is to pick up all the glass, all the body parts, and throw them in the car, because a lot of times the cars are totaled anyway. and they'll throw them in there, clean up all the mess and all that stuff that they do. That's part of their contract. And I'm wondering,
Are they doing the work?
are they doing the work? Is it in the contract that they do the cleanup? I don't know that. I don't know the answer to that question.
Yeah, I mean, and when you're getting off on these exits and getting on, you'll just see rocks everywhere.
Yeah.
Like if you get on Airport Thruway going towards Manchester, and just look at the kind of median there, like as you're getting on the exit, it's just full of rocks. And I think about it because I had one fly up and hit my car.
Oh, no.
And so you have a lot of damage to vehicles and things, and those, I just don't know why you don't have somebody clean it up.
Yeah, there was also. I'm sorry. I always think that you're about to end.
No, I didn't.
I think you're about to end, and then I start talking. But yeah, I think on one of the debates that you and Mark brought up was the blight, because I never thought about it. Like, why are our trees and our, like the things that we plant dying? It's partially because we have dilapidated buildings, and I guess these bugs and all these things. So.
And he has the broken window theory too that you were talking about. So I kind of want to hear a little bit more about that too.
That's a real thing, and they applied this, and they kind of came up with it in New York City in the 1980s. And what they've shown is in different communities, when there's trash everywhere, dilapidated buildings, and they use the term broken windows because it's like if you have an abandoned home in a neighborhood, as soon as one window is broken, if you leave it, the likelihood that there are more broken windows goes up exponentially. And so the idea is that you want to fix those things quickly, and then you'll have less crime. And I have this commercial building, like it's not anything fancy, but it's maybe a minute or two from where we are. Mm-hmm. And the folks, I got it for dirt cheap because the guy that owned it before me, someone broke in and stole all the electrical. They had graffiti all over the windows. They had broken windows. And what I've done is I've cleaned up the graffiti. I've cleaned up all the windows, and it looks nice now. And we've had zero problems in the past year with anything. There's no break-ins. There's no nothing. And so it's kind of, when you have things in poor shape like that and they show that they're not maintained, it shows that no one cares. And it's much more likely to invite criminality when folks in the neighborhood see that nobody gives a damn about the environment.
And I can actually agree with that because I used to live over in North Highland, over off of the Oates Avenue, 43rd Street, Apex behind the Wilson Apartments. And that was one thing that I actually worked with the Inspections and Code Division about, was because there were so many houses and older businesses that aren't even being run anymore that had the broken windows. You had squatters. You had, that area over there houses a lot of prostitution and, drugs and gang members at time, and I lived among a lot of them, and so I think that speaks true to that theory that if we clean up those areas and also add more policing to those areas, then we can actually increase the safety.
Right.
Yeah, but go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, I didn't mean to interrupt you. I'm sorry. Well, so it's kind of like, too, with the trash, people, again, they're like, you're obsessed with the trash. But, I mean, you can see this in your own life. Like with me, if I'm keeping my house up, if I'm keeping my room up, you're much more likely to keep it up if you have kept it up.
That sounds like my
So
husband.
it's like if you come home, if I come home and for weeks I haven't, I've been throwing my clothes and depending on how busy I am, things kind of can get out of control, so to speak. But it's like with my own room, if I've gone a few weeks where I'm just so busy, I haven't had time to do laundry, you've got dirty clothes all over the floor, like you're much more likely when you are going to go to sleep to take your clothes off and throw them on the floor if your floor is already covered with clothes.
Right.
Yeah.
And as soon as if I clean it all up and I have it all nice and neat, I'll keep it like that for 6 months. And the second it gets super dirty again or super messy or whatever, I'm much more likely to keep it like that.
Yeah.
And so it's not the issue, and they want to say, well, we didn't throw the trash on there. Why do we care about that? Well, the issue is that, well, for me, it's like, well, if it's government property, then the government needs to clean it up.
That's right.
I don't care who did it.
Yeah.
Well, especially if we're paying somebody to do that.
Exactly.
And the government, controls most of the common areas that all of our roads, parks, medians, all these things. And so it's like if the government doesn't keep up its own property, then why would the businesses keep up their property? That's why I did the Facebook post and I went to Home Depot, and it just kind of bugged me because I do go to Home Depot. Like, actually, I've been going to Lowe's because I've been kind of embarrassed that I made this video about them.
Yeah, I've seen the
and
video.
put it up there. Yeah, yeah.
I've seen the video.
But I've been going to Lowe's actually because I feel like a butthole because I made the video about them. But you know, it's kind of I think that these especially the large because you have the largest corporation in the city is the City of Columbus government.
Yeah.
And then you have the billion-dollar corporations, the private corporations, the Walmarts, the Home Depots. Those are, they're the next largest landholders. Mm-hmm. And so when they see that the people in the city don't care about their property, it kind of trickles down. Now they don't care about their property. Now the medium-sized businesses care less about their property. And to me, this is all just kind of common sense.
Trickle-down effect. It trickles down throughout everything. So
I mean, if you're mayor and you're in the city government, I mean, you're in charge of the biggest landholder and corporation in the city. I mean, you should keep things impeccably because how can you ever expect everybody else to do the same if you don't do it yourself? Yeah. And so part of leadership is leading by example. And I don't think you can say anything to these businesses for not keeping up their property when the city itself doesn't keep up its property.
Well, and I think another point to take in that, and this is probably not a popular view. I don't know, it may be, but I like to look at things from a spiritual perspective as well, because I'm primarily a believer in the spiritual things like Jesus and things like that. And I remember a specific time where he was rebuking the leaders of the church because they cared more about what they looked like on the outside instead of taking care of what was on the inside. And so what I have seen, and this is why I have stated in the past that Columbus has a heart problem, because I'm a big believer that what is going on the outside is a reflection of what's going on in the heart.
Right.
And so if we have people that are our leaders, our church leaders, I say that because a lot of them profess to be Christians as well, is if they do not have the right heart and their heart is not about serving the people, then it's not going to be about serving the people through what the people have paid for as well. And so I think if we could all reflect on that, like what does our heart say about our city? Like what does our heart say through our public servants about our city?
Yeah,
like,
100%. I agree.
So we've kind of segued into this by happenstance, but we talked about public safety. So there's a couple of questions that, I've talked about and you've heard me discuss about public safety and security of, what's going on in Columbus. My question to you is, how would you reduce violent crime while building trust with the Columbus Police Department? So.
Oh, thank you. And
and is that something on your 100 days?
It is something. So it's kind of, again, I go back to the trash because the way I handle things is like one foot in front of the other. And it's, the broken windows theory kind of, it goes to the idea that if you take care of these small things and you create a more orderly environment, and they did this in New York. They had the graffiti, people, they're jumping the tolls at the subways and all these things. Mm-hmm. Once they cleaned up the trash and they painted the graffiti, you saw a drop not only in the small crimes, but you saw a drop in the bigger crimes too. So it's kind of showing that you care about the environment, that people are paying attention. And so I think that does affect the bigger crimes. And so, I mean, that would be my first 100 days. I would look at all the major intersections. I would look at all the roads. I'd figure out, do we have a proactive plan? Because they seem to, with all the trash stuff and the disorder that you see in the environment, they seem to have like a reactive way of handling it. So if you have a bunch of stuff on the road, you call 311. Yeah. But I think we need a plan where we lay out where the major roads, where the major population centers, what are the major intersections, and we need a plan to clean those things like weekly. And I don't know if it's using prisoners. I don't know if it's using people who have been convicted of DUI or whatever to clean it up. Mm-hmm. But I think if you start taking care of some of that, you're going to see a decrease in the dysfunction that causes more of the heavier crimes. And also one thing I'm really into, big about youth sports. My mother was a single mother, and when she married my stepfather when he was my stepfather for about 6 or 7 years, but she married him when I was about 7 years old. And for me, it was a really great thing to get involved in youth sports. When I was 7 years old, I went to play football with the Edgewood Red Devils, and I played at Edgewood for a number of years, maybe close to 5 years. We won a bunch of peanut bowls because we were the very best team in the city every year.
Not to brag.
And I played under Coach Dan Pate. He's a legend here in Columbus. Yeah. And so, I played at Eastern Little League and American Little League, and it was a great thing for me in terms of my development as a person to be involved in youth sports. You learn about working with a team. Mm-hmm. You work about having a joint goal. You work about you learn about kind of sacrificing for a greater good. It makes you stronger. And I think a lot of the issue is that we need more city support for these things. There should not be one kid who, because they're poor, they cannot be involved in youth sports. And, they say that the devil's, they say idle hands make for the devil's work. And they wonder why these kids get in trouble. It's because they don't have anything to do oftentimes. And so I think if you have more youth, like recreational centers. When I was a kid, they had rec centers. They had, the city should take a much greater hand in youth sports. And so, in my own personal life, I have provided funding for, Midland Middle School for their football helmets and their football pads, Kendrick High School, Jordan High School, a bunch of different schools around town. And my thought has been, why I don't mind doing it, but how come they have to reach out to me, just a regular guy, private citizen, for help? Like, I should not be the one doing this.
Right.
And so, I think that you need to have a lot more work with that kind of thing. And Mr. Hughley was city manager. And while he was city manager for 8 years, there were no swimming pools. And you essentially have I don't mean to say this negatively, but I don't know, this is the word that comes up in my head. It's a sweltering hellhole in Columbus in July.
That's true.
Yes.
In
It's
August.
declining for sure.
Yeah, and when I was a kid, we went to the pools. Mm-hmm. And I went to the city pools. I went to a neighborhood pool. And, I spent my whole summers at the swimming pool.
Yeah.
And you have a whole generation of kids who couldn't go swimming.
Yeah.
I went with my daughter a couple of years ago to the Double Churches pool. This is when all the pools were still closed.
Yeah.
And we spent like 4 hours sitting outside the pool to get in because they were full and they didn't have any other pools.
Yeah.
And so to
It's
me,
still like
it is
that.
an absolute tragedy that these little kids didn't have a place to swim for 8 years when, they go around telling folks that we do amazing, we're a world-class city and all that. No, we're not a world-class city.
They sit on a throne.
No, we
of
don't do
lies.
amazing. It's actually pathetic.
Yeah.
To me, it's criminal that they didn't get those damn pools fixed.
Yes, I
And
agree.
how are you going to take? I can have a pool built in 8 weeks, and I was going to have a pool built at my house. It was like a big, nice pool. It's 25 by 50 feet, and the timeline I set was 8 weeks. And I ended up not doing it because I couldn't get It took me forever to get a permit from the city through the historic district, which is a whole nother thing. I'll tell you right now, I want to abolish these historic districts.
Yeah.
I'm going to move to abolish them. I told them I was going to do it. I'm going to do it. So I think,
love it.
I think that they increase the cost of development. I think that it's a bunch of goody two-shoe, backdoor dealing.
We just got a whole bunch of likes on the live when you said that.
Well, I'm going to do
Oh my gosh!
it.
Well,
Right.
I own a historic home.
Yeah, no,
So as much as
I love historic homes. The problem is you belong to a it's basically a
It's like
social
an HOA
organization,
or something.
an HOA, and they got stringent rules on it.
Yeah,
And
mine's
don't get me wrong, we talk about trash and all that other kind of stuff. So I think it's important that those homes represent themselves, but what do you get out of it?
Well, what they get is that they keep certain people that they don't want out of the neighborhoods.
Exactly.
And if you go to their country club, if you
Yeah.
grew up going to their private school, then you get your project approved.
Right.
Approved. Right now I built a wrought iron fence in my front yard, and this is at a house I own in Lake Bottom, and I paid. I looked at their guidelines.
I know where your house is.
Yeah.
I drove by it.
And it's been a construction zone because I've been having to deal with these people for a few years now, trying to get the proper permits for certain things.
Right.
And even that fence I built, I put, and I'm not saying, I mean, I put $10,000 in building a stone wall in the front, and I paid $12,000 to have a professional handcrafted wrought iron fence. If you look at the guidelines that the city has, it says that these wrought iron fences are historical, that as long as they're opaque in character, this is written in their guidelines.
Yeah.
It says that they were historically in front yards, that they would have floral designs. I personally designed the fence reading their guidelines, and they did not approve me for the fence.
Wow.
And
This is
Oh my
a different,
God. Yeah,
this is
well,
a
no,
different type of, I guess,
Politics.
historic
I
district, because mine is
Well,
not like that at
No,
all.
I have an active lawsuit right now against the city government over that fence. They're paying lawyers like $500 an hour to litigate this lawsuit over a fence that was a major improvement.
Okay.
And
So become mayor and it's done.
well, yeah, no, they're done. Their board is done. You think everyone laughs? You're gonna see.
So we talked, like I said, we started to segue and then we got out of it. But
Let me.
The
Do you mind if I
crime.
had one last thing? And,
Yeah, go ahead.
my bad. I mean,
No, you're fine.
I mean, I've had to fight these people over this for years, and so you can see I'm kind of.
yeah,
Yeah,
Well, the
passionate, I
issue
feel
is
it.
that it drives up the cost of development in these quote historic districts.
Right.
People I've talked to, they don't want to put money in it. They don't want to improve the historic district, and it just makes it more expensive to live there because nobody wants to fix anything up.
Yeah.
So
Do you have cheaper property taxes?
what do you mean, like?
Are you grandfathered in? Like, because before in my historic home, we had the previous owners. They only paid like $600.
Wow.
And then we moved into our historic home, and we paid $1,800 to $1,900.
No, I think I pay closer to 3,000, and
Oh, really?
and I have 3 houses right there. And
Really?
and they
Okay.
have been giving me shit.
As
Excuse
long
my
as you're
language.
paying
no,
your
you're
No,
good.
I think that this is a whole good old boy
Yeah.
network, typical Columbus thing. I go to that board,
Yeah.
and I don't know. You have every single person almost on the there's I don't know. They every single person is a white person, and they don't. And I'm not. It's not all about race, but I wonder why they don't have anybody
Like
else on there.
diversity.
Yeah, they want to keep people out of these historic districts that don't look like them, and
Yeah.
that's what it's really about. So they want, if you're part of their clique, their country club,
Yeah.
then you get approval. I've seen it. I've got videos from the meetings that I've gone to, and they're not fair.
No.
Period.
No, there's a lot of subdivisions and houses like that across Columbus. Yours is one example of that. The Lake Bottom area, down near Broad Street and all those areas over there.
That's another one.
That's another one. And where your house is at over.
Waverly Terrace, but
Yeah.
ours is declining. Ours is nowhere near as strict as.
But there's some historic houses in there that
Yeah,
are.
yeah.
They're, where her house is at it's more craftsman style, which
Yes.
is really going out. And they're beautiful houses down there, but it's so dilapidated down there
Yes,
that
unfortunately.
if somebody needs to come in and that's when we talk about economics. One of the things that I talk about is, and Steve Kelly does, and one of the things that we look at is one of the things we're talking is the homelessness part of everything. And so my concentration on the homelessness part of that is veteran homelessness. And so I hate to see, guys and gals who have served our country that are out on the street, and I've got a pretty soft heart for these folks and stuff like that. But, statistically across the nation, the number one thing about homelessness is to get them into a home. That's it. Don't worry about all the rest of the red tape and all that kind of stuff, but get them into a home. And so the abandoned areas that we're talking about, dilapidated homes and things of that nature, what I wanted to do, and even Steve had looked at this, is to take those homes and have them redone and open the homes like, that are going on the Plummer House and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Give a home to a veteran. Open it up to many different veterans if it's a big enough home, so that they have little apartments in there and they can live.
like a door.
They deserve to have that. But again, we talk about institutional homelessness is one thing. And so institutional homeless is where a person, even though they may have some mental issues, they're in and out of the institution and they're living in the street and then they're back in and they're back out again. And that's the problem. A lot of those folks don't want rules and regulations. They can't live like that anymore. There's a lot of people that feel very comfortable in living over there. So we have to look at what can we do to help them as much as possible. But again, what can we do to get them out, where they're at? A lot of people are complaining. They passed a law here, an ordinance now about homelessness. They're destroying some of the camps and stuff like that, And granted, there's some health issues associated with those things. So I don't know what the real answer is. I don't know about what you think.
Well, I think Phoenix City looks really nice for the homeless. So I think if we can send them there or to Auburn, then I'm just kidding. If you look at Brickyard Road, it's kind of a lot of space for camping along the river.
True.
We could have a bus that goes and picks them up.
Yeah.
And
ship them.
But here's a lot of, sorry, I didn't.
No. We all kind of go ahead.
Well, one thing with the homeless issue, I commiserate with them. A lot of people have been mad at me because I made a Facebook post earlier today about a homeless guy. He asked me for a cigarette, and I went into the store and I bought him a pack. And because folks have been saying that I'm anti-homeless.
Okay.
And it's not that I'm anti-homeless.
They probably said you're contributing to the effort, right? Or something, his dependence on cigarettes.
Yeah.
He asked you for one, you give him a whole pack.
Darn your donation.
Well, he wanted a cigarette. So,
Well, believe me, these keyboard warriors, they'll say exactly that, just to
Anything.
find anything negative that they can put on there.
well, every debate that we've had that I've been to, this has been one of the main questions is about what are we going to do about homelessness. And it's not that I am callous about the homeless. It's more that I look at it as an issue. I Googled it and they said, and it says that Columbus has a homeless population that is 1/10 of 1% of the population. And it's not that I don't care about the homeless, but I care more about the other 99.9% of people and their issues. And so, I don't, I guess they passed the ordinance. No, I don't think homeless people should be camping out on the most busy street corners in downtown. If you want to sleep on the street, you can walk a few blocks away. You got a lot of time. I know you're not working. So, I just don't think that we should, that they should be on the super busy places. And I don't mean they can't be there, but they shouldn't live there. And I kind of, in San Francisco, I went there and they've let the homeless do whatever they want.
Yeah.
And I took a video of it. I was there a year or so ago, and it was just absolute mayhem.
Yeah.
You had people just shooting up everywhere, all over the streets, and it was chaos. And so it's not that I don't care about the homeless. It's that we also have to weigh that against the rights of the other 99.9% of people.
Right.
And to me, the rights of everyone else outweighs their rights.
Well, it all should, I feel like there should be a standard set. Even we understand that some people, we have to understand why they're homeless. We got to understand the psychology behind it. But there should be a standard that the city sets that says, what homeless people are allowed to do, what they shouldn't do, and, how they're going to deal with it. I think me and you, Mark, we were talking about, when we were talking about economic development, one of the biggest things is why not incentivize the people that are here in Columbus to, create businesses that redevelop some of these, I guess, depreciated homes. And in doing so, they get a tax incentive that, that encourages that behavior.
Yeah, that's a good point. I think, incentivize is, if we can get contractors to come in here I think the Plumber House that they've done that, I think it's been so successful on what they've done, but it's small things. My idea is to bring in big companies, tunnels to towers. In my perception in life, I've always figured out there's strength in numbers. So those are great social organizations that help veterans and do what they do. The problem is there's just a few of them around the nation that are very strong. My goal is to create some meetings here, bring them all down here, get them all in one room, and let's talk about this. Let's see what we can do about that, because there is money, and there's corporations that want to be part of this. And so that's my idea, is to bring those guys in here, and we'll sit down. We give them a nice lunch, a couple of hamburgers or two. Just kidding. But anyway, bring them down.
Pack of smokes.
Yeah, pack of smokes, right? Those kinds of things. But there's strength in numbers. And you can't perform these things without, big organizations. There's a lot of money in there. So,
and I'm with you 100%. But in terms of, you go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
No, you go ahead.
Well, I wanted to put it real quick in here, just an idea as well, because like right now, and this is something that I know that you have spoken about is the crime grants that are being given out by the board, the crime prevention board, through the mayor's office. And what I was thinking when we're talking about economic development is, what if we were to take those crime grants and take some of these dilapidated places, turn it into a homeless, like, nomadic park or something?
Yeah.
And then make it to where, in order to stay in this park as a homeless person, how about let's allot them to do some of the trash pickup in the city?
Yeah.
Like, we have a shuttle
That's good.
that takes them down there and does that, But because we have these crime grants there, we have this park, we can feed them lunches, like things like that. Of course, they would have to like figure out how to provide sometimes for themselves, but we could give them those kinds of accesses to things like that. And so that's just kind of a thought that I had.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
And the last thing I'll say about the homeless thing, and I kind of said this earlier slightly, is like the reason I have not been so focused on it as many people is because if you were to take 1,000 residents of Columbus, one of them is homeless. 1 to 2 are homeless. And so if you were trying to prioritize the time that the mayor has for action and things,
Right.
that he or she is doing, I think you need to focus more on what is going to be, is going to impact the 998 and 99 other people.
right.
So, I mean, it's just,
Well,
it's an issue of resources.
Yeah, it is. And I mean, you do have to prioritize on things. I know a lot of the questions that we have been part of, specifically, they're coming, these people, that's their special interest. That's the thing that they want to talk about the most.
Right, because maybe they want the grant money. I
Right.
don't know.
Yeah. Well, it's possible. But I mean,
There's a lot of do-gooder types that they get a $500,000 grant for their
Yeah.
nonprofit. They pay themselves $250, and
Yeah.
that's kind of
And that's
how it goes.
something that we have to look at very closely. What I want is not so much sustainment, but I want proof that these programs that we're giving the money to actually work. Because if they're not, then maybe we need to look at other programs that will work and things that are doing there.
But with the idea of just giving them things, I mean,
Yeah.
and giving them work. I mean, a lot of them have severe drug habits, and the reason they
Yeah.
are homeless is because they cannot engage in consistent productive activity. I mean, some of them, they would want a home and a job, but they lose their job because they can't be consistent because they have the substance abuse issues.
Yeah.
It doesn't make them a bad person. It's just that they have some issues.
Yeah.
And, I'm sympathetic to them, but again,
Yeah.
you're elected to govern for everybody, not just the homeless. And
Yeah.
so they're 1/10 of 1% of the population. So they should get 1/10 of 1% of the time, is my view.
Let me
But-
tell you a program that I was part of that I thought was very successful, both on the youth side and the adult side. There used to be a program here called Conditional Discharge. It was sponsored by the police department. It was originally put together by a police officer named Gary Wisham, who is
Oh, I know
now,
Gary.
Yep, Gary is now deceased.
One of my childhood friends is Lance Wisham.
Yeah. Oh, that Lance.
And I
yeah.
know Lance. I've done
Lance
a
was
lot
a
of
musician. so.
paint work with Lance, or
Yeah.
he's painted a lot of stuff with
Yeah.
me and for me. I've known Lance his whole life. I used to hang out at Gary's house when I was in,
Oh, did you?
in
Okay.
high school. But yeah, Gary was a great guy.
Yeah, Gary was a great guy, and he basically took this program and took it from an institutional program to a successful program, which I thought really alleviated some of the backlog in the court system. Because we were representatives, and we would show up to recorder's court, state court, superior court, and those things. And we had 2-year participants, which were the misdemeanors, and we had the felonies, which were obviously out of superior court. And we looked at them, those participants, and if they were eligible, we thought they were eligible for the program. it worked. It actually worked. And one of the guys I will tell you that I had, and I'm very proud of this guy, he ended up being the one of the top guys in the fire department. But this guy, it was tough love. Let's put it that way. And when he came onto the program, this kid was just all kinds of trouble. He was just in trouble. And, I would do the intake on these guys, and they would come in, and we had different counselors in them. And I was part of the police department. And I would look at it, and I'd go through the rules and the regulations as to what exactly with the program, the parameters of the program. And then the next thing is, number one, they had to be drug-free. Number two, they had to have meaningful employment because they had to pay their fee. So they had to pay the court fees and the court costs and the administration fees, which help us put it together. Well, the program that I was in was organized by federal funding at the time. And it was very important because the federal funding, what I found out about governmental programs is that everybody wants to do them until the money runs out. And then when the money runs out, nobody wants to do them anymore. It's not an attractive thing. And so that program was successful for many years. And when the funding ran out, the chief of police, who was Ricky Bourne at the time, wanted to do away with it. Well, he didn't know this, but secretly behind the scenes, I wrote to the judges. Okay. And Judge Prather was one. Judge Godfrey was the other.
Oh, I know both of them.
Yeah. And I wrote to them, and I said, this program was successful, and it was. And they realized that it was beneficial from helping clear the court log that we had, all the cases that we had up there. But anyway, when the program ran out, they were looking to try to shut it down at that point. But this guy was successful, and he came to me, and I used to do the intake form on him. And one of the forms that I did was a warrant. And it was a VLP warrant, which is violation of probation. For some of you folks who don't know what that is on the legal side of the house. And I filled out everything, filled out their name, and the bottom part is for where the judge signs it, right? And they would come in, and they would look at it and go, what's that? And I said, well, it's a warrant for your arrest. And they go, well, I haven't done anything yet. And I was like, no, but you will.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
That's pretty good.
And I said, and I put the pin like that. I put the pin right there, as a scare tactic more than anything. But it worked.
Yeah.
It worked. And
keep them focused.
Yeah. And I had lot of successes. I mean, this guy ended up being, in the fire, not the top fire chief, but he was in one of those positions, and he said, come to me one day, and he said, Mark, I want to join the fire department. I said, what? He said, yeah, I want to join the fire department. I said, okay. He said, would you give me, a good recommendation? I said, absolutely. I'll give you a good recommendation. Became
Nice.
that. Then
That's
made
awesome.
sergeant. He was driving the fire trucks, and then sometime down the line, about a year or two down the line, he made lieutenant, and he came to me and he said, I want to go in the Army. And I go, well, that's pretty big accomplishment. That's a pretty big step. And he said, yeah, I do. And he said, would you talk to the recruiter? And I said, absolutely. So he went in and he became enlisted, folks. And he was part of enlisted. And as he worked his way up, went to officer candidate school.
Wow.
Ended up becoming a lieutenant
in
the Army. And then he called me one other time and he said, Mark, I want to go to Ranger School. So he went to Ranger School,
Holy smokes.
accomplished that, made it to the rank of major, and then he basically said that's enough, and he got out. Wow. He did his 20 years.
Man, that's a great.
It's a great story.
Yeah, definitely.
It's a success that I think with enough effort, with programs like this, we can bring back to help our communities.
Well, it's also like leadership, because if you didn't have that if he didn't have that accountability and leadership with you, pushing him and I guess holding him accountable to that. I like the idea of like saying, hey, here's a warrant for your arrest, because I feel like with anything in leadership, anything in any governmental position, we need effective, strong leadership, the people that can draw the boundaries, that says this is
good advisors.
Exactly. Yeah. Well, and I feel like, yes, those are in tandem with the leadership. We need people to say, hey, these are the parameters. Here's what you can do. Here's what you can't do. And if you don't do it, here's the consequences for it. And I think that if people had that, it'll make a difference when it comes to operations in our city.
Yeah.
Yeah, and a lot of people need, like you're saying, just a start.
Yeah.
They need a solid start. They
Yeah.
need to get sober. Like, I mean, I commiserate with the homeless, but unless you're going to take them and put them in a 6-month rehab program or 3 months or something just to
Right.
get them, I mean, it's going to be very difficult to integrate them back into normal society.
Right.
As long as someone has a severe drug addiction like that, there's really not much you can do.
Right.
I mean, we want to help people, but I mean, when they're in that state, they essentially have no free will. They're a slave to the drugs.
Right.
So
That's true.
I kind of don't know, you know.
Well, I do know too, and this is something that we mentioned, I think last week, is that we have a church in North Highland. It's Highland Community Church through Truth Springs and things like that, that they do outreach to the homeless. And, you know, they help them get jobs. They help them get into, you know, houses, and they help them to, well, like even through the church, they do chicken and rice, and they do Sunday like breakfast and lunches. And so like if those crime grants, because I don't think I've ever seen Highland Community on those grants. I don't know what's on there currently, but to give more money to the churches who are already doing that to help them to do that even more could potentially be helpful as well.
Yeah, I so much appreciate the place that you know, that helping that comes from, but there's an idea that you create. It's kind of like they call it a moral hazard, in the sense that you want to help someone and you start doing for them, but especially with folks that are drug addicts, I mean, unless they hit rock bottom, typically they're not going to change their habits. So like, you have all this money and all these organizations that want to give them food, that want to do all these things for them, but you know, they're essentially enablers. And so these people never stop using the substances because
I can agree with that.
They never hit rock bottom. They have this organization giving them food, this organization giving them this. And, you know, until you hit rock bottom, you don't really want to change what you're doing.
So what's your remedy, I would say? Like, how do you remedy
Well,
that?
my remedy is to focus on the other 99.9%
Yeah.
of people. And, you know, that's my remedy. My remedy is I can't, you know, you can't spend all your time for this tiny percentage of the population when it prejudices the good of everybody else. I mean, what are you going to do? You're going to spend all your time catering to the homeless. The trash builds up in the streets. The kids are dropping out of school. People are getting murdered. So it's just an issue of focus. And what are you going to focus on? You're going to focus on these things that only affect a very small, tiny percentage of people, or are you going to do things that affect everybody?
Well,
and so
I don't think the problem will go away in a sense. Like, yes, like, but the thing about homelessness, everybody has to see them. We all have to drive past drive past the corner they're poached on, and we have to see them taking money yet again. And so, like, there has to be a way where we address that issues, and we provide that strong leadership, those boundaries of what can be done, what can't be done, while doing the other things that you said and focusing on the majority.
yeah, I think there's so many people that care about the homeless. Well, how about you guys have them move into your spare bedroom or put a tent in your own backyard? There's only a few hundred homeless people here.
Yeah.
You guys, you care so much, have them move into your house.
Yeah.
I agree with that.
You know, you want to
Yeah.
condemn me for being anti-homeless? Well, how about you have them move into your house? And
Or we could just like
You know.
get them some land, have them their own
Well, no,
section of land.
Because I mean, like, he has a point though, because I think about this from even again a biblical perspective, right? We knew Jesus left the 99 to go after the one. And so we could sit here and say, well, Chris, you're going after the 99. What about the one? But here's the other thing. And Sarah, you and I have been learning this in our classes of constitutional government, about how the government should not be responsible for what the church is responsible for. So I think what you're saying is a good thing. Like, hey, like let's put them in our own houses. Like, let's be the church where the government is not doing that, and like let's partner together in that way.
right, and there's kind of like I said, a kind of a moral hazard thing where you see this with children, you see this with a lot of people, where it's almost like the more you do for them, the less they learn to do for themselves.
Yeah, you don't want to crutch them, that's
right.
for sure.
So I mean, you want to give them everything. Typically, that doesn't end well, and
Yeah.
I got a couple more questions, and I know that you've heard this before. You've heard one of our fellow candidates talk about this, and we're talking about crisis response teams, as you heard Miss Bryant had mentioned about cure violence. Mostly is what it is. Cure violence is a dismal failure. It really is. It's another way of getting money. And matter of fact, one of the representatives came here. City council paid him $50,000 for a study, but then later said that we wouldn't see any results of cure violence for 10 years. Now, I don't want to invest in a program that's going to be 10 years down the line. I want to get not instantaneous results, but I'd sure like to have them within the next year. And how is that these programs works? So we talk about non-funding the police and crisis teams and programs of that nature.
Defunding the police.
Or defunding, yeah.
Use that where people will understand that one.
But crisis response teams. My experience in law enforcement is that if you had a crisis response team, they have to go in much, much later because the neighborhood is still reeling over, the death in that neighborhood and the neighbors and things like that. I think that we've got a hell of a problem that we need to solve when it talks about gang problem. And first of all, I mentioned the results, and of course, Mr. Hughley will tell you that, these are all bogus, statistics. Well, I have to tell you that the information that I'm about to tell you came from a man named Jose, and he's the president of the Georgia Gang Investigators Association. So, Mr. Hughley, you don't know what you're talking about. But the bottom line is there are 124,732 gang members across the state. That's enough to fill Brave Stadium plus over there. That's huge when you're talking about gang members all across Georgia. And 159 counties, all 159 counties have a significant gang problem. So I know that I'm going to handle that situation. Matter of fact, we had a mayor, and her name is Teresa Tomlinson, said on very many occasions that we didn't have a significant gang problem. Well, I beg to differ with you. But the bottom line was, I know that I'm going to solve this problem with the 5-step crime reduction strategy he had. And one of those in part of that crime reduction strategy is we're building a crime suppression task force. I'm not waiting for the GBI to come in and do anything. Number one, I'm really not happy with any of their performance. I want to build my own task force. And that task force will be made up of counties that surround the Chattahoochee Judicial District. And we're going to bring them in 2 members at a time, and we can expand from that. But we got to do something about crime down here. And I don't know what your feelings are on that, so I'd like to hear your side of it.
So the feelings on like the gang problem? And
yeah.
So, I kind of have mixed feelings about the issue of the gangs because I don't know how, like, when you say a gang, are you talking about a group of friends who grew up in a neighborhood together and now they're starting to all get in trouble together? Are you talking about a formal gang who's part of the nationwide Crips and Bloods?
Yeah, they are.
Or, you know what I'm saying? Because to me, it does not, how organized, quote unquote, are these folks? It's like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So,
well, they're pretty well organized. You're talking about human trafficking and prostitution, drugs and distribution. That's where they make their monies at. As a matter of fact, the Zohannans, which are part of South Columbus and around the old Baker Village area over there, I think it's Montgomery Road or something, whatever it is, what was over there. They made videos. There's actual videos on YouTube where they've done that, and they're toting guns, they're doing all this kind of stuff. The bottom line is a lot of the back and forth gang problem that we've had here. There was a significant shootout here a couple of years ago, and that's basically what I'm talking about. These gangs are, they're just not your normal run of the gang. They're rolling 60s. You've got the Zohannans here. You've got the Crips and you've got the Bloods. As a matter of fact, counties just north of us are involved in a lot of that. Some of it is not necessarily the human trafficking part where they're making the money, but they're stealing guns and they're selling guns still out in the market. And, folks, don't leave a gun in your car, okay? Because a lot of people are still doing that. People leave guns in their cars. They're not being responsible. And I'm a big Second Amendment supporter. Don't get me wrong. But you got to be responsible for those things. like I said, I don't know how you feel about that. I'm just kind of get your side of, the enforcement part of that, because I know you've had some contact with the police officers and things here in Columbus before. So I don't know what you feel about it. So.
My feeling is always going to be like I'm a pragmatist. So my feeling is going to be what is going to work. That's it. And I don't have the law enforcement experience that you have. I've litigated a lot of legal cases, but I'm not like a gang specialist. And my view would be to get folks who are in the know, folks like you, who can, to get them the resources they need. So if you were to come to me as mayor and you say, hey, look, we need to do this. This is a proven program. We need resources for it. I'd fight tooth and nail to get you those resources. But I don't have the experience and the knowledge in terms of creating a gang program myself. So I would talk to someone like you to figure it out. But I'm a common sense guy. Yeah. So, I don't care if they're a gang or just a group of people. If they're out committing crimes, then we need to catch them and we need to prosecute them. And there's the DA's office. I think that they need more resources from the city in terms of investigating these things. They have folks that are accused of murder just sitting in the jails for 7 years.
Backlogs.
And half the time they're found not guilty. So I have a huge problem with people that are sitting in jail and they're potentially not guilty and they don't get a trial for years. So one thing I would do is meet with the district attorney's office. I would sit down with the judges and I would say, how come so-and-so is sitting in jail for 5 years and y'all aren't giving them bond, but you're also not giving them a trial either? And so if you want to, the law is supposed to be like a feedback mechanism. So if you have a bad actor, someone who's committing crimes, you want there to be a feedback mechanism, meaning they're punished and they're punished quickly. If they just languish in jail, their cases aren't proven, and some of them are not guilty and they're let out. I mean, the feedback mechanism, it's not working. So,
I think this is a good time to talk about cameras.
Well, can I actually just read a comment from a citizen
Go
real
ahead.
quick about that?
Yeah,
so
we've got some comments in here.
So we have a comment here from a citizen. It says the Zohannans have been decimated. Most of them are either dead or in jail, and there have only been 3 or 4 murders all year.
That's not true.
I don't believe Columbus has a severe gang problem.
Oh my God.
I'm sorry. Yeah, so, and then he says, that's not to say there aren't gangs at all, but it's not the same level as places like Jackson, Mississippi, or Birmingham, Alabama. Columbus, Georgia just isn't dealing with the same situation.
Well, I think that it looks different. Like, I think what people are looking for is like the bandanas and the
that doesn't happen.
I guess them consolidating in one area, but it does. And maybe you can speak into this further. It's like people are expecting it to look a certain way, but we're talking about drug trafficking. In a sense, it's kind of like a RICO, like where there's a racketeering and all these organizations, and they're within the political environment is what I'm kind of feeling. But maybe you can, I guess, elaborate on that, Mark.
Yeah, well, the thing is that about 90%, well, I won't go that high. Let's say 80% of the shootings that are happening are gang-related. So I don't know where your statistics are coming from, but it's a good question. The bottom line is it is a significant problem. It is. Last year we had a 16-year-old girl got killed just a few miles from here down on the riverfront. She was hanging out with her friends and got shot in the head. I mean, it's ridiculous. Then, that kind of stuff doesn't need to happen. I just had a shooting within my area. But see, it's not analogous to Baker Village anymore. It's all over the city. Yeah. Last year, I had 2 cars going down my neighborhood chasing each other, and I live in the north end of town. And they were both shooting back at each other. Boom, 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 boom. And I didn't know about it because I was dead asleep. But my neighbor come over to me the next day, and he said, Mark, did you hear that? And I said, what are you talking about? He said, man, there was 2 cars chasing each other through the neighborhood, and they were shooting at each other. I mean, so we still have a very significant gang problem in Columbus. Like I said, 159 counties have gang problems.
Well, one thing, I mean, one thing they could do, and for some folks this is not a popular opinion, but is I think that they should legalize marijuana. And I know a lot of
I'm
people
about to
say,
ask you
I
about
agree
this.
with
no,
so
I think
what your
that they
position
should
is on-
completely, I think they should decriminalize it in the city of Columbus. I think that it should not be the basis of probable cause. Like when you get pulled over, I don't think they should be able to search your car because of the quote, what they say is the odor of marijuana.
Yeah.
I don't think they should be able to search your
Well,
house.
I had a sharp guy, an attorney like you, just
Yeah.
asked me that question in court one time. You know how I answered it?
How?
I said, because I used to smoke it when I was about 14 or 15
goodness.
years of age.
Right.
I know exactly what marijuana smells
Yeah,
like.
did it
they
kill
were
you,
like-
though?
He stopped. He
Killed
stopped
your
asking
brain
me the
cell.
question because he was trying to catch me. He was like, well, what the hell does an odor of marijuana smell like? Well,
I think
kind of the same thing that I used to smoke when I was 15 years old. You know?
I think the
So-
issue is giving people, in law enforcement, there's good actors and there's bad
Yeah.
actors. And I don't ever favor something that gives anybody in a position of power too much discretion. And if it's something that they can just say, I smelled an odor of marijuana. What's going to prove that that's not true? And so I think it gives folks, and I think it gives them too much discretion.
agree.
And I do believe I'm in favor of full legalization because, I've traveled to a lot of states in recent years, and I've traveled to some very nice states, and it is legalized. And it's not, the government regulates it. They test it to make sure it doesn't have fentanyl in it. They tax it. And
That's the
you
key.
know who's not
Yeah.
getting the money?
Yeah.
In the states where it's legalized, you know who's not getting that money anymore? The gangs.
Okay.
Yeah.
You know
Yeah.
who's not getting it?
Yeah.
Yeah, the drug
cartels.
gangs, the cartels.
Yeah.
And so I've seen studies that say these gangs and these cartels that half their revenue comes from marijuana sales. And so if you were to legalize it and decriminalize it, you essentially take half the money these folks are getting and you take it away from them. But I know a lot of law enforcement, they like the fact that it's illegal, at least in Georgia, because it does give them
Yeah, it's
a
a
reason, or like some people would say, a pretense to search, to go inside someone's home, to go inside their cars, to go inside. And so
Yeah, but
I just think,
Oh, I'm sorry.
no, you go ahead. But I mean,
A lot of it. I
I'm
think
sorry.
A lot of it's
Yeah.
based on experience levels too.
Yeah, Well, because
when I first came into law enforcement, I've been in the business for 40 years, over 40 years in law enforcement, and I've seen a lot in 40 years. I've seen programs, but the program I was telling you about was a substance abuse program also. And here's the problem that a lot of us had, and it was not necessarily the legalization part of it. And a lot of people will say, well, why do you care? But it was a substance abuse issue.
Yes, that's
And
the
the thing that it was, I'm not against that part of it, but I will tell you that what happened is a lot of times, and I know people are going to have arguments on this, but I'm going to say it anyway, that it is a segue into the harder drugs. And I know that argument, there's an argument against it and there's an argument for it. But one of the things that I found out, and Chris, and that I found out is we don't, again, maybe the quality control issues is what we're talking about, but we're having overdose issues really bad now with fentanyl. Super bad.
right, and
So-
they say it's a gang. They say it's a gateway drug, but do you know one of the reasons why it could be a gateway drug is because the same guy that you're buying weed from is also selling cocaine.
Exactly.
He's also selling fentanyl. He's
Fentanyl.
also selling
Yeah.
pain pills and
But-
whatever it is.
But he's
you know,
not going away. He's not going away because
Well, I know, but half his revenue's going away
Yeah.
if you legalize
Yeah.
marijuana.
But you see what happened in
So
Col-
I'm 100% in favor
Yeah.
of full legalization. I think that it's just ridiculous that we're still having this argument.
Yeah.
I mean, you can go to Walmart and buy something, and then go next door and buy some marijuana in more than half the states.
Well, as a
So, and I know, I mean, law enforcement, they like it because they say, oh, well, we got all, like, the odor of marijuana, quote unquote, led to, us finding this crime, blah, blah. But if you were to say, well, it's illegal for people to have long hair, well, and you keep pulling over people with long hair, well, eventually those people with long hair are going to be criminals, some of them.
See, well,
So-
my thing is, like, as a mom and as someone who has children, that I don't want my children, I guess, playing with any form of substances. I don't want them around there. If I smell weed in my neighborhood, I'm most likely going to move. But I think you make a valid point. If you do make it legal, then people are not going to try it. Maybe they won't have access or try to get to the harder things. But as far as marijuana being a nuisance, it's a big odor. It stinks, everywhere. If one person is smelling it, like smoking it because we had a neighbor that used to do it, it smells up everything. And here, my children are breathing that in. Not to say that it's harmful, but I'm just like what kind of example are we, or precedents are we setting for our kids in our future? Are we saying that, hey, this is okay if you do it, if you grew up in this environment, let's keep it going, it's legal, it's free? So I think there's so many different avenues to it, but I do think the point is valid. Would legalizing marijuana decrease it overall and potentially decrease the, substance abuse? I don't know.
Well, my thought on that real quick too, and then to agree with you, because I do agree with your thought process, especially because we have so many people who are nonviolent offenders that are taking up jail space.
Yeah.
We have a backlog of people who haven't been prosecuted, haven't gone through that court process. But the way that I see it is that now, and I will say that personally, I don't agree with people smoking marijuana. I think that we should use it the way that it was organically intended,
like CBD,
like topically or in our teas or salads or whatever. But however, if those people are going to be legally allowed to inhale marijuana, whatever they do, it's no different, in my opinion, than cigarette smoke, and it actually has, medically speaking, a healthier benefit.
I'm
than
moving.
cigarettes.
I'm still moving, regardless.
Just
I don't care.
But just like you said, your neighbor was a marijuana user. Whether you want to call it illegal or not, people smoke.
Yes,
and
of course.
up to 20% or more here of the population smokes marijuana almost daily. So you can talk about it being illegal, but it ain't never stopped them from getting a bag of weed.
Well, I mean, they're not going to be taking it.
It's not going to either.
They're not going to take it into some restaurants or anything. There has to be parameters. If
Right.
we're going to do these kind of things, there has to be parameters. I agree with you.
Yeah,
I
in
agree.
those places that it's legal, you have to be 21. You can't smoke it publicly. You can if you want to, you can still get a DUI if you're under the influence.
Yeah.
But I think it's legal if you want to be in your own home. I just don't. You got a lot of money going to these gangs, and a lot of it. There was the sheriff's department. I think there was a post on Only Colga in the last couple of days, and thousands, if not tens of thousands of dollars from this drug bust, which included a lot of hard drugs, was from marijuana. So these folks that are selling the marijuana, they're also selling the other drugs.
Yeah.
So to me, it's a common sense issue, but maybe it's not that simple. I don't know.
I know. Well, it's a complicated issue. There's for and against, and I can see some of the for. I can see some of the positives, and I can see some of the negatives. I know a lot of people. They have attacked me in the past because my little Johnny, little Judy, it doesn't have this anymore because he's been taking CBD and all that stuff. And I guess there are cases where it works. I'm not saying it doesn't work, but most of the law enforcement agencies now, other than PC, probable cause for the stop, and you're aware of that. I said most of the time we're not even concentrating on that stuff because there's so much of it, and it's out there, and we're doing it. I know we usually turn it in for destruction and something like that. I know some law enforcement agencies, their officers will throw it on the ground and stomp it out, whatever, But there's so much of it out there. We encounter it just about every car that we stop. It's got something, you can smell it.
Yeah.
It's there. Would I do it again? No, absolutely not. Knowing what I know now about it, and I will tell you, like I said, we mentioned it was a gateway drug. That was some of the things that came out. But the other thing, Colorado was the first state to mention it, right? Colorado was the first state to basically decriminalize it. But I'm going to tell you what happened. There was a lot of health issues related with health issues in the marijuana, the use of it. And so it got so bad in Colorado that substance abuse program I'm telling you about that I was part of, they actually came to Columbus, Georgia, and Mr. Wisham, and we took them on tours because they had such of a problem with the drugs of abuse issue that they needed to have some kind of program like we had to start it. And that was one of the programs that worked all the way across the United States. The other part of that is because it was still federally not recognized, the law, right? It was still illegal in the possession of marijuana. They could not, the CBD places or the marijuana sales places could not put money in banks because they were federally protected. So here they've got these tons of bills and stuff probably in garbage bags sitting in the corner because they couldn't put it in banks.
Yep.
So you have to change federal legislation. You have to change it all if that's what you're going to do.
And
Go
yeah,
ahead,
we're
Counselor.
at an hour and 39 minutes.
Okay.
So, I mean, maybe we could make
we
some
could do
final
that.
points for Mr. Breault and then, just wrap it up a little bit. So,
I'm
just-
interested in the cameras that you were mentioning.
Yeah, the camera, I want to know about the camera thing, all right? So you did a little video on the camera thing, and let's kind of round
Schools
that
on
out.
cameras.
So, yeah.
I want them gone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Look, I'm going to tell you my position on it, and then we can get your position on it. Number one, I don't like the school cameras. I'm going to be honest with you. I don't like it. I do approve of, road officers, traffic officers doing their job because that's what they get paid to do. And I think that I do approve of that part of it. But how I see the cameras is it's a revenue
Yes, it's a
generating
tax.
issue. And they're putting it in there, and the one on River Road that you were talking about generated quite a bit of money.
Quite a bit of money.
Talbotton Road. Did you
Yeah.
see it? It's not even by the school. Why
Yeah.
are we putting flock cameras
Yeah.
or school cameras that is not even in close proximity to schools? Like, I can understand across the street from the school, but they put it farther up the street by a gas station, no
Yeah.
less.
The other
Like,
thing
it
I
makes no
have,
sense.
the other thing I have a problem with is due process.
Right.
Thank
The
you.
due process issue is really bothering me. So let me hear your side of it,
Yeah.
Chris, real quick.
Well, so I mean, you can see from we did that video to see how
Yeah.
many kids walk to school there.
Yeah.
And there
Zero.
was Yeah. There was no kids walking to school
Well,
there.
I mean, look at the school over there.
Right,
You know,
but,
everybody's driving Mercedeses and
Yeah.
Audis and whatever
Right.
it was over there. So
I mean, my issue is that if it doesn't protect child safety, then we
Yeah.
shouldn't have the cameras.
Yeah.
And so maybe it's different if you're in an area where there's like a lot of little kids walking
Yes.
and
Yeah.
But like you said, how about put an officer there?
we did. We used to have them.
People are getting they're starting to realize that it's extremely hard for them to enforce the cases that
Yep.
because if they take a picture of your license plate, really they have to prove that you were driving the car.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so if you dispute the ticket, 99% of the time you can get it thrown out. So a lot of folks are just I ignore them. I've gotten a few of them and I ignore them, but a lot of folks don't ignore them who are less, adventurous than I am. I mean,
Well, you're an attorney. Let's be fair.
Yeah.
well,
If they see my car, they'll probably go, LaJoy, let's get him into court. Let's get him into court.
well, so like I'll show you my my aunt is I have an aunt and she was my grandparents' youngest child and she's about 10 years older than me, and she teaches third grade at Calvary Christian.
Right.
And she's got two sons who are in high school at Calvary Christian. And she sent me this text. She sent this yesterday at 3:32 p.m. and it's got a ticket and it's got her Jeep Wrangler.
Oh, no kidding.
And she was she was going, I guess, let me see. It was at 3:59 p.m. and she was going 37 miles per hour.
Oh my gosh, I
And
know. Those
this
are the
was
worst ones.
This was the same place on the River Road there,
Right.
with near Brookstone. And so she and her husband, they're great people. He used to be the youth pastor at Winbrook Baptist Church. He's now the pastor at Central Baptist Church on Whitesville Road. And these are good salt of the earth people. I mean,
Right.
these are good law-abiding people. And both of them, though, they don't. She's a teacher. She doesn't make a lot of money.
Right.
And he's a pastor. He kind of almost does the pastor thing almost voluntarily. He has another job too, but they're not rich people. But here they are having to fork out $75, to pay this, and that kind of thing adds up. So.
Yes.
Is she a danger to little kids at that intersection? Where River Road and
Right.
Bradley Park Drive is.
Right.
No,
No.
there's no kids there. And so it's kind of, you're just taking their money.
So how are we gonna get rid of them? Because like I need specifics. Because the
Cancel
thing
a
is,
contract.
I know. Because like
Say we get a bulldozer and just drive over.
I know. Because like
And if they have a problem with it, then what are they going to do?
the worst one. This one was
gonna
the
arrest us?
worst
I don't
season.
think so.
Like they literally, I was driving to Aldi's, no less. It was only 133. And I was going 36 miles, but because it's like, you know, you have to be 25 and anything over like 10 speeding, like miles per hour over the 25 when the lights are flashing. They gave me an $80 ticket for going 36 in a supposedly 25, but it was really a 30. It's really a 30, like regularly. But and then it was like 3 minutes into, I guess, the time. I was so angry. I was wanting to like get a chainsaw and just sever it down by myself.
Well, so if you elect me, then I have a skid steer. It's like a little bobcat. It's got a bucket.
I'll film it. Dave, with
If
the
you
gates on the
elect me,
side.
I'll give them 14 days to come and pick up the cameras,
Yes.
the ones especially there near Brookstone and River Road where there's no kids, or any other one there's no kids. And I've got a little dump truck, and we'll take the skid steer
Do it.
and we'll pick it up and we'll dump it. And what are they going to do? Are they going to
Recycle
have me
the
arrested?
metal.
I don't think so. So
So, well, now I got your opinion on it, so I understand. You know, there's been some good successes with the flock cameras. There's been some good ones. I just think there needs to be more control, you know, and less fingers involved in the control aspect of that, because we've solved some really good cases.
Yeah.
You know, so I'm not 100% behind, you know, some of these issues, but there's good and bad of everything, and it takes control and everything. So
sure.
But Chris, we're going to wind up our program today, and
Thank you for having me. I really appreciate it.
give you the
Yes,
last
it
few
was
minutes to state your case here and tell us about.
Well, so if you want real results, if you want someone, me, Mark, I know he's a man of action. If you want somebody that is going to really take real action, substantive action, then I wouldn't vote for the status quo. If you think the
right.
last 20 years of Columbus and that status quo has been good enough, then you know who you can vote for, the people you can vote for. But if you want change, if you want real change, then you should do something else as a voter. And it may not be me, it may be Mark, it may be some of the other candidates, but I encourage you to think hard about this election.
Yes,
and if you want
please.
some drastic results and some drastic changes, then you need to do something drastic as a voter. So
That's a good point. And folks, that's kind of how we want to wrap it up. But again, we're talking about the candidates and, you know, what they're talking about. If you want change, then by all means, you know, look at Chris, look at myself, look at Steve. But if you want the same old garbage that's been going on all these years, then you vote for the establishment candidates and let them go about. And we'll never have change here again. It'll never happen. So you've got to make some really honest decisions about who you want to lead Columbus, who you want to be on the city council. I mean, these are all important positions. So we're going to wrap that up. If we want to take it out with a prayer, you're willing to join in on that. Who wants to do that?
Do you want to pray?
you go for it.
Okay. So, Father God, thank you so much just for the opportunity to sit here and speak about the things that need to change, Lord. I know that your heart is for change, and I know that that's something that many of us have been praying for. So thank you so much just for respect at the table. Lord, thank you so much for differing opinions and for collaboration, Lord. Thank you so much for the respect that you are able to use us to give to others, for the witness that we get to set. Lord, thank you for having your eyes on everything that goes on in the city, Lord, and that there's nothing that you don't know and don't see. So, Lord, I just ask that you would just minister to the people in the city to vote purpose and not party. Lord, that they would really reflect on what the city needs. Lord, and so just be with us as we go out for our week. Be with each one of us as we are traveling in our businesses and our relationships, Lord, and our goings and comings. And, Lord, just continue to guide us all in the ways that you would have us to go. So, Lord, we love you. It's through your Son, Jesus Christ, that we pray. Amen.
Amen.
Thank you, Chris, for being on board.
Thank you.
It was very interesting.
Anytime.
Ladies, yeah, anytime. And we're going to come on your program. So
Yes.
Heck yeah.
that's a big thing. Ladies and gentlemen, that's the end of the program. I appreciate you tuning in today. And God bless and be safe. And good night.